Hey Care2, it's Heather, and it's Friday, October 17th, and I'm bringing you this week's Rant and Rave solo, so I get to do both, and there's a lot to choose from this week. This week's rant is going to go out to the Republican Party for their actions going after a little group called ACORN. Now, ACORN is a community organization. They're the largest group of its kind, and really they've been around for about 40 years. They seek to organize low-income, moderate-income folks on various issues, and every 2 years they do these large voter registration drives to get people out. Now, many of you may recall that in Wednesday night's debate, Senator John McCain, during Bob Schieffer's question about sort of attacks and negative campaigning, John McCain referenced ACORN and tried to tie ACORN to Senator Obama. And sort of said that they might be engaging in the largest voter fraud in this nation's history, and that it could destroy the very fabric of democracy, which is kind of stuff, right? Well, here's a little bit of the backstory. Now, ACORN is a third-party voter registration organization, and so they're required by law to turn in every single card that they get. ACORN actually has a fairly substantial quality control system where they have folks who literally call every single person who is registered to guarantee that they are in fact a real person who belongs sort of on the voter roll. The sort of genesis of this is really that the Republican Party every 4 years in particular during presidential elections, but they do it actually in off years as well. This is a voter suppression tactic that the party engages in. And you'll notice they tend to do it in states where they think it's going to be a close election. And they seek to keep people off the voter rolls or away from the polls. And we've seen this time and time again. In 2000, probably the best example was in Florida with then Secretary of State Katherine Harris of the makeup and the crazy, right? And Secretary of State Katherine Harris sort of just contracting a private company to try to match up felons in the state of Florida can't vote against the voter database. There was almost no quality control, and tons of people were removed from the rolls without cause and were unable to vote on Election Day. And as we know, Florida went for now President Bush by 538 votes. So that's what, that's a 2000 example. ACORN is routinely targeted, and there's been so much misinformation out there. And Republicans, of course, have been focusing on the state of Ohio in particular, although there's also been a lot of reporting about what's happening in states like Nevada. Well, they've been going after Ohio, neglecting to mention that in Ohio, when you show up to vote, you have to have some other form of ID, whether that be a photo ID or a utility bill that confirms your name and your address. And let's just think about this for a minute. If you are registering person X, or let's call that person, I don't know, Mickey Mouse, and Mickey Mouse registers to vote, Mickey Mouse doesn't show up to vote. You know why? Because Mickey Mouse doesn't exist. And this is why, despite 5 years of the Bush administration spending massive time and resources on this through the Justice Department in voter fraud activities, they have abandoned those efforts largely. And the reason they did it is because they discovered that even if you have people who are being illegally sort of signed up to register to vote, or sort of fraudulent voter registration, voter fraud is not complete until the person actually signs up to vote. And that's not happening because you're signing up people who don't exist. So this is sort of the crux of this issue, and the Republicans really, I think, are doing a disservice to everybody by undermining our confidence in the system, when really what we ought to be doing is thinking about having a system that is able to accommodate as many voters as possible. 6 years after the Help America Vote Act in 2002, which was in response to the debacle of 2000, that they still haven't figured out, because we still have problems. We still don't have ballot boxes or voting machines that people have any faith in. And if you want to talk about undermining the fabric of democracy, in my book, I think that kind of takes the cake. I would encourage folks who want to learn more about this. Media Matters has actually done a great job of documenting the stories and the coverage on this issue, and how the news media has not done a great job, surprise, surprise, of sort of covering this fairly. As Talking Points memo of the blog, they've done a wonderful job of sort of documenting this. They had a great piece today with former U.S. Attorney David Iglesias, who used to see this up close and personal in the Justice Department in terms of their investigations of ACORN, and sort of the latest news about the Justice Department and the FBI investigating this, how something's a little smelly there. And Iglesias, of course, is a Republican. You also go to ACORN's site. They've set up a new special page to sort of debunk some of these sorts of issues. So that's it for my rant. Now, rave. For those of you who did get to see Wednesday night's debate, there was a really interesting exchange that actually started out around Supreme Court justices and litmus tests, but sort of shifted into a question around abortion and women's health issues. Senator Obama talked about his being pro-choice, talked about the importance of women's health coverage, comprehensiveness of women's health, and how that was sort of treated in the context of his response around partial birth or late-term abortion. And Senator McCain sort of responded in a something of a dismissive way, using air quotes, which I know, see, whenever I use air quotes, you all know it's dismissive, right? So Senator McCain responded using air quotes and being dismissive on women's health, quote unquote. Well, that code and shorthand might have worked for sort of the pro-life base that he was talking to when he said that, but it actually represented just and showed an extraordinary disdain for women's health overall, and sort of acknowledging and recognizing that maybe women should be able to control their own bodies and their own health. Now, what's the rave part of this? The rave part is the response of a lot of fantastic organizations who have been doing work on this. Reproductive Health Reality Check, NARAL, Pro-Choice America, Planned Parenthood, their president, Cecile Richards, she's been out on the hustings on this, talking about, you know, why we really need to be having conversation about women's reproductive health broader, and thinking about this more broadly than just abortion, because this really is about having comprehensive education, comprehensive access to reproductive health information, and how that's really not the discussion that's happening right now, which is unfortunate. Senator Obama, I think, and I'd be interested in your takes on this, definitely seemed to get it. We hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you next week. We are only 18 short days away from this election. I don't know about you all, but I am ready for November 4th. So you hope we have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.